Next, we're going to take House Bill, hold on a second. No, I know, I just want to find it. $5292, okay. We're going to take House Bill 5292, again sponsored by Representative Vella Wilkins. It's an act relating to military affairs and defense, the Military Sexual Trauma Confidentiality Act. It provides confidentiality protection to military sexual trauma victims. Representative Vella Wilkins. Are you with us, Camille? Unmute yourself, Camille.
Hi, this is Kim.
Camille?
I'm going to place you on hold, and once you're ready, we'll connect you through.
Is there? Well,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes, we can. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Roberta, for helping me unmute myself. So I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about what the issue is, define it in terms of numbers so that you can understand exactly what the impact of this bill seeks to do. So some of you may remember the Me Too campaign had originally been launched in the United States in October of 2017 through social media. And in the first 24 hours, the term Me Too was repeated in more than 12 million posts by over 4.7 million people. And those of you who served in the House may remember many of our own members also publicly declared Me Too. In fact, some of you sitting here tonight may have said Me Too. As a woman veteran who also served on the House Special Commission on Sexual Harassment in the Workplace, I received a considerable number of emails and phone calls from our women in the National Guard. They asked for the General Assembly to intercede regarding the considerable problems surrounding the investigation and disposition of military sexual trauma. The persistence of sexual violence within the U.S. Armed Forces is a fact long recognized by military officials, policymakers, healthcare professionals, and the media. The risk of exposure to sexual violence within the military is very high, and the annual incidence of experiencing sexual assault is 3% among active duty women and 1% among active duty men nationwide. So in 2018, nationally, 20,500 service members were sexually assaulted or raped, including 13,000 women and 7,500 men. The rate of sexual assault and rape jumped by almost 40% from 2016 to 2018. And for women veterans, the rate increased by over 50% to the highest level since 2006. Now, let's look at what that's nationally. So let's talk about Rhode Island. Right now, according to the Manpower and Reserve Affairs Data Center, Rhode Island maintains 3,326 Air and Army National Guard members, including headquarters staff. The Veterans Health Administration reported in MST healthcare treatment for Rhode Island, sexually coercive behavior was 8% of women, or 266, 2% of men, which is 67. Unwanted sexual contact, including sexual touching and completed or attempted rape, was 6% of women, or 200, and 1% of men, as 33. So the national average is 3% for women and 1% for men, but in Rhode Island, it's 6% for women and 1% for men. Sex crimes in the military must not be tolerated, and investigations involving military personnel must be overseen by an independent third party if they're going to work. I mean, even when forming our government, the founding fathers knew to separate the government into three branches to maintain proper checks and balances on power. The lack of these checks and balances is what allows the Department of Defense and the Guard Bureau to avoid accountability and sexual assaults to run rampant. Now, in 2017, the Marshall Project reported that 19% of police officers are military veterans. And that came to them according to an analysis of the U.S. Census data performed by Lewis and Pathak of Georgia State University. It's actually the third most common occupation for veterans behind truck driving and management. So I'm telling you all of this because I want you to understand that if a man or a woman has been victimized and is reporting that through the VA or through their command that there was aggravated sexual harassment or sexual assault, if it is a complicated investigation or an IC in bureau terms, it's investigated in the municipality that the act actually took place. If the person was attacked stateside in let's say, for Rhode Island, so the individual, depending upon where it occurred, would go to either local police or they may go to state police to report. Now, I want you to keep in mind what it said about the percentage of law enforcement officers who have military experience. So what's been happening, according to these victims who've reached out to me, is that when they go to the local municipality to report the sexual assaults, that all of the information that they provide, including witnesses' names, is being reported back to their command before the investigation could be completed by the third party. And that becomes a problem because now individuals who had originally been witnesses to the act or will testify on behalf of the victim are potentially being intimidated by their chain of command because they're being notified or alerted that the complaint is taking place. And as a result of this continuous problem, I have initiated this bill to provide confidentiality with regards to the investigation of military sexual trauma and aggravated sexual harassment. And if you go into the bill itself, it's very self-explanatory. It's not going to tread on anyone's rights. It's not meant to keep things in secret, but it is meant to protect the victim and the witnesses until the investigation is concluded. That's the bill in a nutshell.
Thank you, Representative Vella Wilkins. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Looks like Jason Knight has a question. Proceed, Representative Knight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Camille, I love the idea of this bill, and you and I have talked about it a lot over the years. I think it's laudable that the investigation of this kind of event has to be kept within official channels, and it definitely should not be leaked beyond those official channels. I read the bill, and I'm a little concerned because the bill says you can't subpoena some of this information. And subpoenas are used legitimately, are used during the prosecution process by both grand juries and defense lawyers. And I'm wondering if there's a specific reason that the subpoena provisions are in the bill.
It was, once I laid everything out to Legislative Council, Jason, that was recommended to me by them in order to protect the confidentiality of the victim and the witnesses. But I am more than happy to have a discussion with you offline to see what we could do to massage that portion of the bill.
That'd be great. Thank you, Rep. I think this bill with a couple of those tweaks to make sure that its efforts towards confidentiality don't interfere with the fact-finding mission of the court. And once we tweak those things, I think this could be ready for a vote.
Excellent. What I'd like to do is once the two of us meet, whether it's face-to-face or virtually, I'd like to bring in a couple of military members, including a JAG, that could make sure that we're also within the requirements of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
That's great. I'm nodding. I don't know if you can see us or not, but I'm nodding.
I can see you nodding. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Knight. Any other questions by any of the members? I don't see any. I just had a comment, Camille. I spoke with Peg Langhammer from day one. She supports the bill, but she has some issues. I think it could be close to what Jason was just discussed as far as the subpoena power. So I would suggest that you get a hold of her because I think she'd be an asset to this bill, and she would like to weigh in on it. She called me tonight because she couldn't be here to testify or get on the phone for whatever reason, but she just wanted to talk to you about the bill. So I just want to relay that. And I do think there could be an issue with the subpoena as well. So I think with a few tweaks, you've got a good bill here, and I certainly would support it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. If you just provide me with her contact information, I'll make that happen.
I will. I'll text you later and give you all of her information. You know, Day One is the agency that deals with sexual assault of all kinds. It used to be the old Rape Crisis Center, so, and she's the executive director. So thank you.
Yes, virtually with Day One. I was on the board of directors for the Coalition Against Domestic Violence a number of years ago before I took public office.
Oh, very good. Very good. All right, we have one witness to call. It's Colonel Kim Keller with the Air National Guard. Kim, are you with us, Colonel?
Yes, I am.
Well, Colonel, welcome to the Committee on House Judiciary. You may proceed.
I think this bill is a very important bill. I have known victims of both sexual assault and sexual harassment who were re-victimized because of the lack of confidentiality in their in the investigation process. I've known one case where a case of sexual harassment on base where literally the victim's name was known by everyone. And it became very embarrassing to her because relatives found out, not because she told them, but because of word getting around on base. I know a sexual assault victim where the one of the members of the wing commander's staff got a copy of the police report before she did, and he was not involved at all in the investigation. He was not part of it, but it was simply because they wanted to know what was going on and what she was saying. It's a travesty what is happening on the military side with the investigations to begin with, because rather than taking care of the victim, there's always seems to be an attempt to cover it up for whatever reason. In my experience, it's usually to cover up for the perpetrator. But for these women, some of whom have asked for anonymity, to have their stories gotten out and told, almost like it's a locker room. It just re-victimizes these women all over again. So this would be a very important bill to go forward because these women do need to have their identities protected, especially when they are requesting it to be done.
Thank you, Colonel. Are there any questions for this witness? Hearing none, that concludes the testimony on 5292.